When a millionaire returns home at midnight, you won't believe the shocking truth. The clock struck 12 as the sleek black car glided through the heavily guarded gates of the luxurious estate. Shadows danced eerily on the manicured lawns, and a cool breeze whispered secrets through the old oak trees surrounding the mansion. It felt as if the night itself held its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to unfold. Inside, boundless riches rested casually, gold trim, intricate art, and glimmering chandeliers that seemed to twinkle with mischief. But on that night, the air was thick with anticipation, the kind that sends shivers down your spine. Jack Kensington, a self-made millionaire known for his sharp deals and razor-sharp wit, stepped out of his car. But his smile, usually bright, was absent. Instead, a furrowed brow cast a shadow over his striking features. He glanced around, it's almost as if he expected someone or something to leap from the darkness. He took a step forward, but the air felt charged, humming with unseen energy. The night seemed alive, electric, teeming with possibility or maybe danger. As he reached for the grand door, he noticed the bolt had been unlatched. Anxiety twisted in his gut. Who would be in his house at this hour? Every logical bone in his body screamed at him to turn around. But curiosity drove him forward, urging him to discover the strange pull of the unknown. The door creaked ominously, and he hesitated. He pushed it open, revealing the eerily quiet expanse within. Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from the hallway. His heart raced. Was someone inside? The hairs on the back of his neck stood up, and he could feel a lump forming in his throat. The luxurious warmth of the mansion suddenly felt cold and unwelcoming. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With pounding heartbeats, he stepped inside. The house was dark, save for the faint glow of the moon spilling through the tall windows, casting long shadows. Jack squinted into the silence, but then, just at that moment, a figure darted across the hallway, just out of sight. Panic seized him, but his intrigue was undeniable. Who dared invade his sacred space? Tension crackled in the air like static electricity. He summoned every bit of courage and followed the sound, creeping through the vast home. Every creak of the floor beneath him felt like an alarm bell ringing in his ears. But he couldn't stop now. What was it that had him so riled? What secrets lay in wait in his magnificent palace of wealth? The thrill of uncertainty buzzed in his veins, mingling with a haunting dread. He would find out, no matter what. As he turned the corner into the foyer, the air shifted again, a memory brushed against him. But were those faint, familiar scents mingling with dark shadows? He shook his head, as if clearing away the haze of his anxious mind. Something was waiting for him, lurking just beyond his sight. What awaited him? The darkness wrapped around Jack like a suffocating blanket. He took a hesitant step, the floor groaning beneath him, echoing through the vastness of the mansion. Every heartbeat felt louder as he strained his ears for more sounds, for any sign of movement. Just then, another thud broke the silence, this one louder, sharper. It was closer. His hands trembled as he reached for his phone, using its barely there light to cut through the obsidian blackness. The beam danced on the walls, flickering past expensive paintings and priceless sculptures that seemed to mock him with their indifference. Jack felt as if they were mere spectators in this unfathomable drama unfolding in his own home. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing, revealing the uncertainty in his tone. The question hung in the air, but no reply came. Just silence, heavy and oppressive. Then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, he heard a whisper, a name? So faint he couldn't be sure. Goosebumps raced down his arms. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was, it wanted him to discover it. That he pressed further into the house that had always felt like an impenetrable fortress. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, twisting into shapes that tickled at the back of his mind. Suddenly, a door slammed shut somewhere in the distance, resonating like gunfire through the corridors. Jack's breath hitched. Was there someone else in the house right now? Or was this just his mind playing tricks? It was time to confront his fears. Jack darted toward the sound with newfound resolve. The hallway stretched before him, the end shrouded in darkness. Sweat lined his palms as he squeezed his phone tighter, pushing himself to take one step after another. Each creak of wood felt like a countdown, one he wasn't certain he wanted to finish. As he rounded the corner, the light from his phone illuminated the entrance to his study. It was ajar, a thin sliver of darkness beckoning him closer. The air around it pulsed with an unsettling energy. Jack's instincts screamed for him to turn back, but he couldn't leave without knowing. He pushed the door open wider, revealing the room where he'd spent countless hours poring over deals and numbers. A place that felt like safety until now. His breath caught in his throat. Papers lay scattered across his desk, few of them belonging to him. There were printouts, photographs, even a little black notebook he recognized not for its contents but for the last time he'd seen it. A chill ran down his spine. The last time he'd seen it was in the hands of someone he thought he could trust. That a figure was silhouetted at the far end of the room. Jack swallowed hard, instinct telling him to bolt, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. Who are you? His voice was steadier now, an anchor in the storm of confusion. The figure turned slowly. An unnerving familiarity sent shockwaves through him. It couldn't be Jack. A soft voice, practiced yet filled with sorrow, pierced the air like a knife. Chills ran through him as recognition settled in. We need to talk. It's about your father. That name landed like a punch in the gut. His chest tightened, memories flooding back, dark, hazy memories that he had fought hard to forget. The air was electric, saturating the room with unspoken truths and long-buried secrets. Could it be true? His heart raced as he struggled to process her words. What had he stumbled into? The truth loomed before him like a dual-edged sword. Jack, you have to listen to me, she urged, stepping closer. He took a defensive step back, heart pounding wildly. Why should I trust you? Because it'll change everything you thought you knew, she said, her voice trembling with urgency that he couldn't look away. What lay behind this unexpected reunion? He felt the weight of the night pressing down with every moment passing. He realized he was standing at the edge of a precipice, one that could plunge him into a chasm of revelations. But he needed to know what truth awaited him at the other side. Jack's pulse quickened as he locked eyes with the woman before him. Her face, half hidden in shadows, stirred a whirlwind of emotions he thought he'd buried long ago. Every moment was saturated with tension, the air thick and electric, almost charged with the secrets they shared. You shouldn't be here, Jack whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. I had no choice, she replied, stepping closer, her silhouette sharpening as the phone light fell on her features. It was Sarah, his childhood friend, the one his father had warned him to avoid, the one who disappeared without a trace years ago. You need to know the truth about your father, Jack. Stop, he shouted, the word bursting from him like a dam breaking. A storm of confusion and anger washed over him. How can I believe anything you say? After all this time? Sarah took a breath, her expression cracking like porcelain. I never wanted to leave. Your father, he made me. An icy knot twisted in Jack's stomach. The man he had assumed was infallible, a towering figure of integrity, suddenly felt more like a phantom, manipulating life as if it were a game of chess. What are you talking about? He shot back, frustration mingling with fear. He protected me from the truth. You were just a kid when you left. Was I? The bitterness dripped from her words. He lied to us both. You deserve to understand the choice he made. Jack's mind raced, grappling with the onslaught of information. Was his father truly capable of such betrayal? He thought back to all the times they'd spent together, how Jack had idolized him. Why now? Why return after all this time? Because they're coming for you, Sarah said, glancing anxiously at the closed door behind him. And I need you to believe me. We don't have much time. The sound of footsteps echoed through the mansion, quick and light, creeping nearer. Jack felt the hairs on his neck rise. Who? Sarah hesitated, her eyes wide with fear. Not here. We need to get out, now. With a sudden urgency, she grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the door. But the moment they moved, a scream ripped through the stillness, long, agonizing, familiar. Jack's heart dropped. His mother? Stay quiet. Sarah hissed, urgency turning into panic. Jack didn't know what to do. His body felt like lead. But then the thud of footsteps broke into a run, shattering the silence of the dimly lit hall. The door they had just opened began to splinter as heavy knocks echoed outside, powerful and unrelenting. Jack's chest tightened, the realization dawning on him. This wasn't just a game. It was a storm rising, and he was right in its eye. Quick, the back. He pulled Sarah, urgency propelling him forward. The mansion was a labyrinth of secrets, and now felt alive with hidden dangers creeping along its edges. They raced through the darkened hallway, Jack desperately trying to quell his rising fear. Shadows loomed at every corner, lurking like malicious spirits. And then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a flash of movement that sent his heart racing. It was a figure. Someone was in the house with them. Jack! Sarah shouted, her voice laced with terror. He turned, realizing too late. The figure lunged out of the dark, and Jack barely had time to react. The world exploded into chaos as everything went black. The last thing he heard were Sarah's cries fading into the suffocating darkness. What had he just stumbled into? And who, or what, was waiting in the depths of his family's home to confront him next? Jack's mind throbbed in darkness. He drifted between unconsciousness and a feverish awareness, his senses sluggish and muddled. The faint sound of distant crashing broke through, echoing in the depths of his mind. Something was wrong, terrifyingly wrong. Suddenly, brightness invaded his eyes as he blinked to adjust. His head spun. Memories crashed like waves, pushing him back against reality. They had been running, and then nothing. A low groan escaped his lips as he tried to sit up. The world wobbled before him. He was on the floor of a dimly lit room, the walls damp and peeling. A flickering bulb hung overhead, casting a sickly yellow glow. Panic surged through his veins. Where was Sarah? Jack, a whisper floated to him from shadows across the way, and his heart lunged forward. There she was, slumped against a cracked wall, her hands bound. Fear sparked in her wide eyes, mirroring his own. He noticed bruises lining her neck, evidence of a struggle. Sarah! He pushed himself to stand, only to stagger back, the world still spinning. Jack, be careful, she hissed urgently, glancing at the door. They know we're awake. Before he could respond, loud footsteps sounded outside. Thick, heavy boots stomped the ground, sending vibrations through the wooden floor. His instincts kicked in. They had to escape. He glanced around the room, searching for anything to break her bindings. Where are we? He murmured, frantically scanning the room for a weapon, a tool, anything. An old storage room, Sarah replied, her voice trembling. I overheard them. They're looking for something, the truth about your family. We have to get out of here now. Every fiber in Jack's body screamed for action. The door rattled violently, twisting on its hinges. He spotted a broken chair leg in the corner. Time slowed as he lunged forward, grabbing it and breaking into a steady stride toward Sarah. Stay still. I'll get you out, he said, gripping the jagged edge of the leg tight. No, wait, she whispered, her eyes darting to the door. They're coming. Just then, the door flew open, and a tall, shadowy figure filled the doorway, silhouetted by the hall light behind him. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He recognized that face. It was a man from the past, the very man who had once granted him a harmless childhood with sweet whispers and comforting tales of valor, his father's oldest friend. The one who had vanished along with Sarah. Jack, the man said coldly, his voice a low growl of menace. Glad you could join us. Adrenaline surged. Jack tightened his grip on the chair leg, ready to fight or flee. What have you done to us? Jack shouted, rage bubbling up. Oh, you'll learn soon enough, the man replied, stepping closer, his shadow swallowing the light around him. Your father wanted to keep you safe, but now it's too late. Don't you dare come any closer. Jack fought to steady his voice, even as fear gripped his heart. The man smirked, a twisted glee dancing in his eyes. Your safety is an illusion. The truth has a way of unraveling everything. Just then, he turned abruptly and drew a weapon from inside his coat, the metallic flash igniting panic in Jack's chest. Run, Jack! Sarah screamed, her voice slicing through the mounting chaos. But Jack was rooted to the spot, frozen by a mix of shock and dread. The man raised the weapon, ready to unleash terror. Jack. Now. With a jolt, Jack sprang into action, adrenaline guiding every step. He grabbed Sarah, pulling her with him toward the dim light of an open window that glimmered in the distance. But time was slipping away, and danger lingered at their heels, breathing hot against their backs. Jump! He cried, knowing that only one option remained in a world spiraling into chaos. He felt the cold hands of destiny urging him onward, plunging them both into uncertainty. Would they survive this harrowing chase? And what truth lay on the other side of that desperate leap? The air rushed past them as they fell, the world below a blur of colors. Jack shielded Sarah with his body, bracing for impact. The thump of their landing jolted pain through his legs, but they were alive. They rolled on the ground, the grass damp and cool against their skin. Get up. We can't stop now. Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with fear. Their escape had only just begun. They scrambled to their feet, scanning their surroundings. They were in an overgrown garden, the smell of damp earth mixing with the sharpness of adrenaline. The house loomed ominously behind them, its dark windows like unblinking eyes watching their every move. Which way? Jack asked, breaths heavy with exertion. There. The fence. Sarah pointed toward a weathered wooden fence that stretched along the perimeter of the property. It looked old and barely standing, but it was their only option. Let us go. Jack shouted, urging Sarah to run ahead as they vaulted over the tangled roots and prickly bushes that no sooner had they started toward the fence than they heard shouts echoing behind them. The men had regrouped. Boot steps pounded against the ground, fierce and relentless. Jack felt panic claw at his insides. Faster, he urged, his heart racing as Sarah pushed herself ahead. The fence approached, and hope flickered. Jack, it's too high. Sarah cried. No. We can make it. He reached the fence first, yanking at the slats, testing their strength. They creaked ominously, but held. With a determined shove, Jack climbed, gripping the rough wood. But as he paused at the top, he caught sight of a flicker of movement in the shadows at the window of the house. His breath hitched. What was that? A figure, pale and ghostly, seemed to be staring back, as if waiting for him to fall. But he didn't have time to dwell on it. Come on, Sarah, he yelled, glancing back to see her panicking. Just as she grabbed the lower rung, a sharp cry erupted from the house. They're escaping. Get them. Fear ignited, cranking adrenaline up another notch. Jack leaned over the fence, reaching down for Sarah. Take my hand. Now. With a frantic lurch, she grabbed his hand, and together they made it over just as the sound of heavy footfalls grew closer. They stumbled forward into the darkness beyond the fence, breathless with fear and relief. The night was wild and shrouded in shadows. With the house behind them, they plunged into the dense woods that bordered the estate. Twigs snapped underfoot as they sprinted deeper. Which way? Sarah panted, her face painted with raw determination. Just keep moving, Jack whispered, his heart pounding loudly enough to drown out everything else. Suddenly, the silence shattered. Voices erupted in furious commands, and headlights swept through the trees, cutting into their escape. They were tracking them, hunting them down. Panic surged. Jack's instincts screamed for them to run faster. But then just ahead, he spotted a flicker of light through the trees, a clearing. There. We have to reach it. They pushed through the underbrush, limbs snagging at their clothes. The sound of barking dogs joined the cacophony, snarling and snapping. The night echoed with chaos, where every breath seemed like a countdown to capture. Jack! Sarah cried, her voice breaking. They burst into the clearing, but the scene that met them staggered him. In the center stood an old cabin, decrepit and abandoned. The windows were shattered, the door hanging askew. Do you think we can hide in there? Sarah breathed, glancing back at the approaching lights. There's no other choice, Jack urged, pulling her toward the cabin. They ducked inside, hearts racing, the air stale and heavy with dust. It was dark, only the faintest glow of moonlight streaming through cracked boards, creating eerie shapes that danced on the walls. Listen, Jack whispered, holding his breath. The sounds of pursuit grew closer, the sound of voices now close enough to distinguish. We can't let them find us. We have to stay quiet, Jack said urgently. But as he leaned closer to Sarah, about to whisper reassurances, the floor creaked beneath them, and the darkness gathered around, like a predator lurking just out of sight, waiting for its moment to strike. Then, without warning, the door burst open with a violent crash, and a silhouette filled the entrance. Thought you could hide? Not a chance, came a chilling voice. Jack's heart dropped. They had found them. What would they do now? And who else might be waiting in the shadows? Jack's mind raced as the silhouette inside the doorway stepped closer. A rush of adrenaline surged through him, urging him to act. He needed to protect Sarah, no matter the cost. Get behind me, he whispered fiercely, shoving her gently to the side. The figure in the doorway shifted, its features becoming clearer under the sliver of moonlight. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in dark clothing that merged with the shadows, a flashlight gripped tightly in one hand. Do you really think you can run forever? The man said, his voice low and smooth, but undeniably dangerous. There was something familiar about him, like a haunting echo of nightmares. Jack's gut twisted. Who are you? Jack's voice shook slightly despite his efforts to sound bold. The man chuckled, a sound that sent a chill running down Jack's spine. You don't remember? That's cute. All the pieces will fall into place soon enough. Jack's mind spun. He didn't have time to decipher this riddle. The sounds of shouting were coming closer from the woods, the men hunting them circling in for the kill. You should leave, the man said, tone dripping with mockery. They won't stop hunting you. Do you really think this rundown shack will give you any protection? Jack took a breath, adrenaline pumping like a raging river through his veins. We'll make it out of this, he vowed, glancing at Sarah, whose eyes were wide with fear. We just need a plan. The man in the door seemed to ponder this, his expression unreadable. You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery only gets you so far. And there's no escape when the people after you are my friends. Friends? Jack barked. They're monsters. And here you are, playing the hero, the man said with a smirk. How quaint. But there's no future for you too. Not now. From somewhere outside, the sound of barking dogs grew louder, frantic and hungry. Jack felt a rush of despair on top of the fear simmering in his chest. Enough of this, he shouted suddenly, adrenaline exploding. He lunged forward, putting himself between Sarah and the man in the doorway. Do you want to fight? The man challenged, amusement dancing in his eyes. Better than hiding like a coward, Jack retorted. A sudden crash echoed through the woods, branches snapping as heavy boots charged toward the cabin. Jack could feel the ground trembling beneath him, the thick air filling with a tangible sense of dread. You really don't get it, do you? The man said. You think you can fight them? You have no idea what you're up against. As if on cue, gunfire shattered the tension, bullets ricocheting off the cabin's walls. Jack yanked Sarah deeper into the shadows, pulling her close. Stay down, he commanded, panic coursing through him. The man took a step back, his confident demeanor faltering. You're running out of time, he warned. With that, he turned and darted out of the cabin, blending into the chaos outside. Jack exchanged a look with Sarah, a mix of fear and determination. The sound of footsteps rushed closer, and they had only seconds before the cabin would likely be overrun. What do we do? Sarah demanded, her voice trembling. Find a way out the back. We have to run, Jack said decisively, his heart racing. But just as they moved to the back, they heard a rustle. The energy shifted around them, and Jack felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. Something was waiting in the shadows, something just beyond the darkness. What was that? Sarah whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Before Jack could respond, a low growl resonated in the air, sending icy tendrils of terror racing down his spine. The dogs were here. As his breath quickened, Jack's mind raced. They weren't just hiding from men anymore. What else had been awakened in the chaos of the night? Jack's heart hammered in his chest as the growl echoed sharply in the silence. Overhead, the moonlight illuminated the tiny room, casting long shadows that seemed to twist and creep like living things. Jack, we have to go, Sarah urged, her voice barely more than a whisper, shaking with fear. He fought against the panic threatening to swallow him whole. I know, he replied, forcing his voice to remain steady. But even he couldn't deny the urgency, the chilling pressure of the incoming threat looming just outside the cabin walls. The growl rumbled again, low and menacing. Jack's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a run-of-the-mill dog. It was something much worse. "Stay close," he murmured to Sarah before inching toward the back door, peering through the cracks. What he saw made his breath hitch. A mass of dark shapes lined up just outside the cabin, illuminated only by the flickering beam from the flashlight still clutched in the man's hand. Sarah's voice faltered, breaking through his frantic thoughts. "Let us go," he hissed back, pulling her closer. He couldn't afford to let her see his fear. "We'll find a way out. We just need to be quick." He took a deep breath and pushed open the back door a fraction, its rusty hinges creaking in protest. A gust of cold air rushed in, heavy and thick with the earthy smell of wet leaves. The growl came again, followed by a snarl that reverberated through the trees. Jack's heartbeat quickened. Time was running out as the chilling sense of being hunted intensified with each passing second. "Jack," Sarah pleaded, wringing her hands together. "What if it's waiting for us? What if it doesn't matter?" "We can't stay here," he whispered hotly, trying to keep the fear from penetrating his resolve. He pushed the door wide and stepped outside, dim moonlight spilling across the ground like spilled ink. The sounds of barking grew louder, closer, filling the air with an intense urgency. "Follow me," he urged as he darted around the corner of the cabin. They sprinted down a narrow path that twisted into the dense thicket. Every crack of a twig or shadow that darted by felt like it could swallow them whole. They could hear the dogs now, their coordinated sniffs and low growls weaving through the darkness, hunting, searching. Jack glanced back just in time to catch a glimpse of flashlights pushing through the trees. He cursed under his breath. Whoever was chasing them were getting too close. The specter of the tall man loomed in his mind. What the hell had he meant by friends? A shrill bark shattered the stillness, followed by frantic footsteps that grew nearer. Jack gripped Sarah's hand tighter, leading her deeper into the thicket. "Jack, we can't run forever," Sarah gasped, her breath coming in quick gasps. "Just keep going," he urged, feeling the raw panic consuming him. They needed to find a way to throw them off their scent, to go off the beaten path, to lose themselves among the trees. Suddenly, a flash of movement darted ahead. Jack stopped abruptly. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know, something's out there," Jack said, unable to quell the rising apprehension. Just then, a rustling erupted from the brush to their right, and a massive shape leaped into view, dark fur and wild eyes, growling and snapping, ready to pounce. Jack's heart lurched as the dog lunged toward them. Instinct kicked in, survival blurring every other thought in his mind. He pushed Sarah behind him and braced himself, but before he could react, from the corner of his eye, something else moved. A figure emerged from the shadows, equally as threatening as the creature before them. "Get down," the figure shouted. But it was too late. Jack's world exploded into chaos as the dog leapt forward. What had they awoken in the dark of the night? Jack's instincts screamed as he felt the rush of air from the dog's powerful leap. Panic set in. Time slowed around him. But then, the shadows shifted, and the figure shouting to them lunged forward with breathtaking speed. "Down." The voice barked again, now closer than ever. Jack ducked instinctively, pulling Sarah with him. The dog, massive, powerful, and fueled by primal fury, narrowed in, but the figure collided with it, sending them both tumbling through the mess of underbrush. Jack's heart raced. Who was this person? Could they be more of a danger than the creature? Sarah whimpered beside him, and he felt her trembling. He didn't have time to reassure her. They needed to move. Jack's legs propelled him forward, dragging Sarah behind him. They breached a thicket and stumbled into the open, moonlit clearing. Breathless, Jack glanced back. The dog wrestled with the figure, fur flying and jaws snapping. But the man fought back, swinging something. What was it? A shovel? Jack's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He could barely comprehend what he was witnessing. "Jack, what are we doing?" Sarah's voice cracked, panic rising in her tone. "Stay close," he shouted, finally finding his voice above the chaos. He spotted a rusted old pickup truck parked at the edge of the clearing, shivering in the moonlight, as if waiting for a savior. They had to reach it. Jack grabbed Sarah's wrist and sprinted toward the vehicle, dodging low-hanging branches that clawed at them. Every instinct urged him to look back, but he willed himself not to. Behind them, yelps and snarls echoed the sound as raw as a knife cutting through the night. Jack felt the hairs on his neck stand up. Were they being pursued? Were there more beasts hidden in the dark? They reached the truck and Jack yanked the door open, fumbling the rusty handle. The vehicle groaned in protest. "Get in!" he shouted, urgency coloring his voice. Sarah climbed in hastily, her eyes wide, breath shallow. Jack hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. The figure was still engaged in a desperate struggle, managing to pin the massive dog momentarily. The moonlight caught the man's face. He was older, scruffy, but determination flickered in his eyes. "Go," he bellowed, hurling the dog aside with all his strength. That was all it took. Jack jumped into the truck, slamming the door shut just as the sound of a bark tore through the air. He fumbled to start the ignition, fingers trembling as he twisted the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life. "Come on," he shouted, his heart hammering as he threw the transmission into gear. The man sprinted toward them, eyes wide with urgency. "Drive. Drive now." Jack hit the gas pedal hard, and gravel spat out from under the tires as the truck jolted forward. They skidded across the clearing, the lights cutting through the darkness, illuminating chaos behind them. The dog was rising, bounding after them like a spirit of vengeance. "Why are we running? What is going on?" Sarah shouted, but Jack's eyes were locked on the rearview mirror. "Just hold on," he growled, adrenaline flooding his senses. He drove faster, trees flashing by in a blur, his mind racing to piece together the night's jigsaw. Somehow they'd gotten caught in a nightmare, and he needed answers. But the night wasn't done with them yet. From the shadows, other dark figures emerged, surrounding them. Jack's gut twisted. They were not just being hunted by the beast. Something far more insidious had been unleashed. "You have to let me out," Sarah said suddenly, voice shaking. "I have to go back." "Back? Are you crazy?" Jack snapped, his heart thudding hard in his chest. But Sarah was firm, her eyes shimmering with intensity. "I have to warn them." "You don't understand." Jack's pulse raced. What was she talking about? He felt the weight of the world pressing down, thickening the air. As they barreled deeper into the night, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of being pulled into a trap. A web woven with secrets and hidden dangers. But what secrets lurked in the dark? And who were they really running from? "Just hold on tight, Sarah," he whispered, though uncertainty gnawed at his insides. The road disappeared ahead, lost in shadow as the looming figures drew closer in the rearview mirror. The truck roared down the narrow road, tires throwing gravel like a spray of ink on a canvas of night. Jack's heart raced, drumming in his chest as he kept glancing back. The dark figures were gaining. His stomach churned as the enormous dog bounded after them, its eyes glinting like twin beacons of malevolence. "What do you mean you have to go back?" he shouted over the roar of the engine, fighting the rising tide of panic that threatened to drown him. "They don't know what is coming." Sarah's voice was laced with fear, but her resolve was like iron. "You don't know how bad this is. But we can't just stop. You saw what that thing is capable of." Jack fought to keep his focus on the road, but his mind raced. Who were they, and what danger lurked ahead? The shadows enveloped them, swallowing the faint glow of the moonlight. "Trust me," Sarah insisted, eyes wide. "If we don't warn them, more people will be hurt." There was an intensity in her voice, an urgency that sent a shiver down his spine. He turned to her, searching her expression, desperate for answers. The fight with the dog, the man's look, the figures closing, and everything felt like fragments pulling him into a darkness he couldn't escape. As they rounded a bend, a flash of headlights appeared ahead. Jack squinted, instinctively gripping the wheel. A roadblock? Or salvation? He pressed the gas pedal down harder. The vehicle surged, screaming through the night, when suddenly Sarah gasped beside him. "Jack, look out!" He jerked the wheel to the right, too late. The truck swerved dangerously, barely missing a massive tree that loomed in the road's periphery. The headlights strobed through the thick woods, creating a stuttering dance of light and shadow. In that fleeting moment of chaos, the reality of their situation hit him hard. What if we don't make it out? It was a question Jack didn't want to entertain, but the thought lodged like a splinter deep in his mind. There's a cabin up ahead, Sarah shouted, her finger pointing through the windshield. Old Man Harris's place. We can find refuge there. Jack looked ahead. A shabby silhouette sat against the backdrop of the moon. It was old and worn, but it stood defiant against the approaching darkness. Get ready. I'm turning in. He shifted gears, veering toward the cabin. The truck hurtled up the path, tires slipping on the slick earth. Jack's eyes trained on the building. No lights flickered inside, no sign of life. But as he pulled up, panic clawed at his throat. This could be a trap, or worse, could simply be an empty shell waiting for them to fall into its jaws. I'll get us inside. You stay close, Jack ordered, though a crack of doubt splintered through his confidence. He swung the door open, and was greeted by a gust of cold air that felt alive, wrapping around him like a warning. The night was eerily silent except for the desperate thundering of their hearts and the fading howls of their pursuers. Jack peered into the cabin through grimy windows, his breath caught. A figure moved inside, a shadow darting across the dim light. Who's there? Jack's voice had lost its edge. Fear rippled through him as he turned back to Sarah, who was frozen, eyes wide. Before Jack had a chance to speak, the cabin door swung open with a loud creak, revealing an old woman, her face etched with lines that seemed to tell stories of sorrow and strength. You shouldn't have come here, she rasped, her voice thick with warning. What do you know? Jack demanded, urgency heavy in the air. And then, from the deep silence, a low growl emerged. The dog had found them. Jack's heart dropped. What did that woman know? What horrors were truly running free beneath the cloak of night? As he stood there, knowing they couldn't evade what was coming forever, he had to wonder, was every choice leading them deeper into hell? The growl grew louder, echoing from the woods, mingling with the hushed wind that snaked through the trees. Jack felt cold sweat prick at his skin, his stomach twisting into knots. What do you mean we shouldn't have come here? He demanded of the woman, heart pounding in his chest. Evil knows no bounds in these woods, she said, her voice cracking like dry leaves. You're hunting something that hunts you back. Jack's mind raced. Time was slipping. He needed answers. We're not here to cause trouble. We just need shelter. Then you must leave. Quickly. The urgency in her tone shattered him like glass. He glanced back toward Sarah, who stood close, fear woven into her features. The moment felt heavy, like walking through mud. Each eye blink a lifetime. Suddenly, the old woman leaned closer, eyes narrowing. They're not what they seem. Not friends, family. Family? Jack echoed, confusion crashing over him. What do you mean? With a shuddering breath, she raised a trembling finger, pointing towards the thick trees. What's coming for you holds the power to tear your life to shreds. It's tied to your blood, Jack. You need to get out of here. Before he could respond, the growling was upon them, punctuated by the sound of rustling outside, feral breathing and heavy footsteps. The darkness hung thick, oppressive, and Jack could feel the temperature drop like a guillotine blade. Go. Now. The woman shouted, shoving them both toward the door. Wait. Jack protested, but the energy in the air shifted, demanding action. He grasped Sarah's hand tightly. We'll escape together, he assured, forcing conviction into his words even as doubt gnawed on the edges of his mind. They burst through the door into the cool night, the weight of the dog's presence almost tangible behind them. The shadows closed in as they sprinted toward the trees. Jack could feel eyes watching them from every direction. What's out there? Sarah gasped, her voice tight with fear. Whatever it is, it's connected to my father. He yelled back, adrenaline shooting through his veins. We'll figure it out together. As they dashed into the woods, it was like running through a living nightmare, each rustle and snap of twigs heightening the tension. Then came the terrifying sound, a howl that split the night, raw and dangerous. Jack stopped abruptly. What do we do? Climb. Sarah urged, pointing to a robust old tree nearby. Together, they scrambled up its gnarled branches, urgency fueling their limbs. But just as they reached a fork in the branches, they heard the unmistakable sound of paws hitting the ground. Jack's heart sank. It's here. Peering down, he watched a huge dark blur prowling through the underbrush, snuffling and growling, its eyes shining like coals in the night. Panic squeezed Jack's ribs, But they couldn't just sit here it's circling, Jack whispered, glancing at Sarah. We can't let it find us. Then, for the first time, he noticed her expression. It was fierce and determined, unyielding under pressure. We need to draw it away, she said, as if an idea sparked to life. How? Jack's brow furrowed, breathing heavily. Throw something. Create noise. Up there, detritus from the tree. Jack looked around, feeling the thud of time passing. He began grabbing sticks and leaves, launching them into the darkness away from them, buying moments. It wasn't enough. The dog was still prowling, intent and hungry. Just a little more. Sarah urged, her eyes fierce, determination etched into her features. Jack took a deep breath, focused on a thick branch nearby. Together, he shouted, and they hurled it deep into the woods. The dog perked up, startled. It took off, barking like a rabid beast, distracted for the moment. Now, Jack commanded, and they clambered backward higher into the tree, gaining a safer vantage point. What next? Sarah whispered through gritted teeth, noting the panic ebbing back as they regrouped. Now. We listen, Jack replied, heart pounding in rhythm with the thrumming night. Moments passed in silence, anxiety thick like fog, settling over them. But it was a fleeting peace. Suddenly they could hear voices, shouting into the darkness, angry cries melding with the rustle of branches. Stay hidden, stay quiet, Jack instructed softly, knowing their lives hung in the balance. Then his breath caught again. Muffled voices seemed to mingle with the howling wind, blending, warping. They could find them, and bloodline drowned in urgency as shadows flitted below. Jack, please, what? As Sarah began, her voice tinged with fear. I don't know, he murmured, heart pounding as fragments of memories floated back, his father's warnings, the conversations he overheard, the familiar faces twisted in the shadows of his childhood. I need to know what's going on. You can't go back. Sarah gripped his arm, eyes wide. We have to find a way out of this nightmare. He nodded, focusing on not just escape but answers. The weight of family secrets lay heavily on his heart. But before they could act, that bone-chilling howl rang out again, capturing attention as it broke through their failed attempts at silence. Eyes and claws, unseen and dangerous, sought them, seeking to unravel the truths buried under layers of deceit. As the clouds shifted, allowing a sliver of moonlight to spill over, Jack spotted a glint in the shadowy undergrowth. Something glimmered in the darkness, a piece of a photo, one he knew to be special. Before he could process, the figure rose from the shadows, familiar and dangerous. Jack. The man from before called, his presence solid yet sinister, shadows dancing on his face. You're coming with me. There's no escaping the past. The memories flooded back, truth breaking open like a dam. Here was the man who vanished, the warning buried. Not today, Jack declared, steel in his voice. But fear prickled at the back of his neck, urging him to run. To leave everything behind, but how could he? Jack, don't. We have to escape, Sarah cried. And under the weight of her voice, Jack found his answer. The truth lay not just on his shoulders but beckoned from the spirit of family. A reminder that confronting the past was a choice between fear and hope. Together, he whispered to Sarah, determination flooding through every fiber of his being. We face it together. And as the figure stepped closer, Jack was ready, prepared to shatter the darkness and reclaim the light, because family meant fighting for what mattered. With the bond between them stronger than ever, they clash against fate, aiming not just for survival but redemption. As the night held its breath, ready for the storm to break, Jack steeled himself. The time for fear was over. The truth would be theirs to wield. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss out on more gripping stories just like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Jack's journey. What will happen next? Your insights matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this electrifying conclusion. Only true fans know how vital it is to support the channel through these actions.